I have clothes on, dum-dum.
Yeah, bra and underwear. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Alright.
Who am I here with, you dum-dum? You stinker
Well,
butt.
I thought you were gonna stream. That's what I'm like.
I
where
am
the
streaming
fuck
right
your
now,
clothes
actually.
at? Hmm? Yeah, exactly. Where your clothes at? That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. Last time you told me, put some clothes
This is
on,
what I
babe."
wear every
Okay, yeah, I'll
stream.
put some. Fuck. That's crazy.
You're a stinker.
Hypocrite.
Hi, bread boy. Thank you.
The Y-Files is brought to you by Warframe's latest update, Whispers in the Walls. For thousands of years, we've pondered the meaning of dreams. Dreams offer insight into our subconscious. Dreams help us process emotions and organize our memories. Most of us live our waking lives giving a sort of performance. Whether through dishonesty, embarrassment, or simply by being polite, there are thoughts we do not share. But while you sleep, your inhibitions disappear, and you're left with the raw, unforgiving truth, the real you. But dreams can be more than that. Some claim dreams are the realm between ours and the spirit world. Some dreams can predict the future. Studies have shown that dreams can be shared between people. Lucid dreaming is when you, not your dreaming self, your conscious self, controls the dream. You are literally a god. The universe is your playground. It's exhilarating and powerful, but there is a dark side. What if, while lucid dreaming, you weren't in control of the dream, but someone else was? Well, that's no longer a dream, it's a nightmare. And it's no longer a playground, it's a prison. And every night the lights go out, you close your eyes, and he is waiting for you. I don't know, Seymour, that looks like it might be infected.
Human,
Where are you? You haven't shown up to work in days.
they're in the walls.
Why are you whispering? What's in the walls?
The whispers.
Well, if the whispers are in the walls, why are you whispering?
I have to speak very
All right, it's
softly,
perfect.
using only my breath without my vocal cords.
Are you defining the word whisper to me? You know, I don't have time for this. I have to patch a beaver-sized hole in the garage.
Beaver? Oh, those giant rodents are gonna get it. You semi-aquatic rats are giving me a neurological disorder.
Yeah, I think that was pre-existing.
What?
Nothing. Since you're home, maybe you could patch the hole?
Well, I can't. I'm a little busy.
Busy with what? You haven't left the house in over a week.
Well, I've been hooked on this super addicting co-op lunar shooter called Warframe.
Wait, is that today's sponsor?
Yes, let me tell you all about it. In Warframe, you play as sword-wielding, gun-shooting, wall-running space ninjas battling evil in a massive...
Where can I play?
Hello. I'm so glad to see you again. You remember me, don't you?
In 2006, Jeannie, a woman living in New York, was at her weekly session with her psychiatrist, Dr. Brian Stone. Jeannie wanted to discuss a recurring dream she was having. Psychiatrists can often help a patient cope with stress by helping them unravel the meaning of a dream, and Jeannie found sharing her dreams comforting. She said each of her dreams were different, but they all had something in common. No matter what was actually happening in her dream, she was visited by a man she didn't know. She called him this man. Now, most of the time, the man would just stand there saying nothing, but once in a while, he would offer words of encouragement. He knew things about her that nobody knew. He'd tell her everything was going to be all right, not to worry, and that he was her friend. Now, recurring dreams are not unusual, but Jeannie found this one very unsettling. Dr. Stone asked her to sketch the man. Often confronting a dream, especially a nightmare, is a way to bring it out of the subconscious and deal with it rationally. Usually the issue is resolved and the nightmares stop. Jeannie drew a man with a round face, short black hair, and a receding hairline. He had prominent eyebrows, a small nose, and very thin lips. Jeannie's session ended, and Dr. Stone set the portrait on his cluttered desk where it lay forgotten for a few days. About a week
I feel
later,
like I've seen
a
that
different
before.
patient had finished his session with Dr. Stone. As the man was leaving the office, he caught a glimpse of the drawing on the doctor's desk. He asked where he'd gotten the picture. Of course, Dr. Stone couldn't say, but he did ask why he wanted to know. The patient said, "Well, every night for the past few months, I've been dreaming of this man. He says he's my friend and that I should come with him." Well, Dr. Stone told him not to worry about it and they would discuss it next week.
Oh, no service unless the meter's running, huh?
I guess not.
Frickin' shrinks.
The patient left, but Dr. Stone was intrigued. So he scanned the image and emailed it to about a dozen psychiatrists and psychologists that he knew. No more than 90 seconds later, his phone rang. What are dreams and why do we have them? Well, short answer, nobody really knows for sure. There are theories that dreams serve many purposes. One is memory consolidation. Our brains are constantly absorbing stimuli. Dreaming is our brain sorting through all the data, throwing out what we don't need and filing away the good stuff. Dreams also help us prepare for real-life conflict. Now, as far as we know, all mammals dream, and all mammals have an amygdala. This is the part of the brain that processes emotion, especially fear. While sleeping, an animal's brain goes through various dangerous scenarios and prepares them to deal with these situations in real life. You've seen dogs twitch while they're sleeping. They're probably dreaming about chasing something or
Dreams
being
are wild.
chased. You've seen cats dream too.
Oh, they're dreaming about how to escape the burlap sack they're in, along with a couple of bricks that's slowly sinking underwater.
No.
Oh, right, that's my dream about cats.
Your brain is dark.
Oh, you have no idea. You wouldn't last 5 minutes in here, pal.
Well, I wouldn't want to be in there.
Good, because you're not invited.
Good.
Fine.
Do you always have to have the last word?
I love the
No.
fish.
Cats, dogs, horses, sheep, people. It's a dream all animals share. Chasing something, or more often, being chased. Even birds,
girl.
fish, reptiles. Every
cute.
animal has an amygdala or something analogous to it. There's research that shows that dreams can be used for problem solving. Have you ever been stuck in a problem, gone to sleep, and woken up with the answer? I have.
Thanks,
Now,
Bread
nobody
Boy.
knows for sure how this works, but while we sleep, we know the primal parts of our brain are most active. The least active are parts of the brain like the prefrontal cortex, which is associated with logic and our sense of self. With our ego suppressed and logic suppressed, our brains are free to explore solutions to problems we might not have thought of while awake. All animals do this to some extent. There are even songbirds that practice their songs while they sleep, like they're working out the kinks before an actual performance.
Like a sound check.
Exactly like that. Sleep happens in stages. Stage 1 is light sleep, really just being drowsy. Even daydreaming is considered stage 1 sleep because even though you're technically awake, you're producing theta waves. Now during stage 2, You become less aware of your surroundings. Brain waves slow down, your heart rate slows, your body temperature drops. Stage 3 and 4, your brain produces delta waves. During these stages, your body and brain do self-maintenance. And if you wake someone up during stage 3 or 4, they're going to be very drowsy or very cranky. Finally, there's the REM stage. Random eye movement. This happens for the first time about 90 minutes after falling asleep. But you'll go through these phases multiple times a night. And you can dream during any one of them. But each time you go into REM sleep,
Right in front of
your
you.
dreams
Your
become
hand's
more
blocking
vivid
the
and
camera,
more
Stinky.
intense. You may not realize it, but most dreams are negative. They're full of anxiety. Our brains try and make us forget these dreams as quickly as possible, and that's a good thing. But this is the land of nightmares, and this is where people kept seeing this man.
No, don't be afraid. I'm your friend, remember? Your friend. Now,
I need you to listen very closely.
you have to follow me.
Wait,
Dr.
what?
Stone's phone
I'm
was
so
ringing
confuzzled.
nonstop. His inbox was flooded. He was being contacted by psychiatrists, psychologists, neurologists, even priests. Dozens of people had reported seeing this man in their dreams. He looks exactly the same, and the story is always the same. He shows up every night, he rarely speaks, he wants something, and he wants you to go somewhere. Now, this had been going on for a couple of months, and although nobody was being threatened, people were terrified. Most found his features unnerving. His thin, emotionless smile, his empty stare.
His unibrow.
Unibrow bothers you, huh?
Are you kidding? That thing is 2 weeks away from becoming a butterfly.
Ugh.
What? Entomology jokes bug ya?
By the end of the week, Dr. Stone had documented 80 cases of people seeing this man in their dreams. It was too much of a coincidence. As Dr. Stone pondered, he received an email from a colleague in Berlin. The email contained a link to a website, thisman.org. On the site were reports of this man from all over the world. LA, Tehran, Sao Paulo, Rome, Beijing, Barcelona, Stockholm, Paris, New Delhi, Moscow, really everywhere.
That's creepy
People were
as
putting
fuck.
up signs asking, have you
Look at
dreamed
chat,
this
babe.
man?
Hi, Carlos.
And the answer around the world
Hello.
was yes.
I guess my text of speeches is not working
It seemed
now.
as if in every country, in every culture around the world, this man was appearing in people's dreams. This man had been seen at least 2,000 times. Nobody knew who he was, but the theories covered everything. People of faith thought he was a religious figure, though whether he was good or evil, they didn't know. A more pragmatic theory said that because there were posters of him everywhere and his image was disturbing, people couldn't help but dream of him. Then there was the darkest theory, the one nobody wanted to talk about.
I want to talk about it.
Well, remember Project Stargate, where the CIA was using psychics for remote viewing locations around the world?
I'll leave a link below.
Thanks. The CIA had a sub-project within Stargate, lucid dreaming.
Of course they did.
They wanted to see if
Sounds
they could
good,
communicate
Bread
with
Boy.
someone who was dreaming and potentially implant thoughts or images into the sleeping person's mind.
This is the plot to the movie Inception, you know.
I know, but Inception came out in 2010. The CIA project started 20 years earlier in 1991. So now there are a few
Carlos,
frightening
are you
questions. Did the CIA get this to work? Who is this man? And most importantly, what does he want?
I'm gonna shut up.
While these
What?
questions were being asked, the
Don't
number of
worry
people
about it, don't worry
reported
about it.
seeing this man
Don't-
in their
don't worry
dreams
about it, I'm
was up
just-
to 8,000. So either this was a dream experiment gone completely out of control, or
It is interesting.
it was working perfectly. The ancient Greeks and Romans believed that some people had the ability to dream of the future, and there could be evidence of that. On April 11th, 1865, Abraham Lincoln entered the East Room of the White House. There was a coffin in the middle of the room. The president asked one of the guards what happened. The guard said an assassin killed the president. Now, that wasn't Lincoln's first dream about his death, but it was his last. He was killed 4 days later. Mark Twain had a dream about his brother in a metal coffin. Those were rare at the time.
Brothers?
Metal coffins.
Ah.
A few weeks later, his brother died and was buried
tricky.
in a metal coffin. 20 passengers canceled their tickets for the Titanic after having dreams about the ship sinking, freezing water, and drowning. And whenever there's a disaster, you hear stories of coincidences, like I was supposed to be on that boat, that plane, or that train that crashed. How many stories have you heard from New Yorkers who were supposed to be in or near the World Trade Center on 9/11, but something kept them away? My brother Gino and I had a meeting scheduled 1 block away from Ground Zero that morning, but for some reason they canceled the meeting last minute. Now, considering the time of day, those buildings should have been much more crowded, but they weren't. Lots of people stayed home or were running late that day. Now, it's hard not to believe in the paranormal when you hear stories like this. Jojo Billingsley was a backup singer for Leonard Skinner.
Stories are very interesting. The brain itself
with
is very
you,
interesting.
human, things just couldn't be the same. 'Cause I'm as free as a fish now. And this fish you cannot change.
This fucking fish is my favorite.
Okay.
Sorry, Lord knows I can't change.
Anyway, she dreamed the band was in a plane crash. They were due to fly the next day. She refused to get on the plane and begged the rest of the band to do the same. They ignored her. Later that day, the plane ran out of gas and crashed near Gillsburg, Mississippi. Out of the 26 people aboard, 6 were killed, and the other 20 almost were. The story's even creepier because the crash happened 3 days after they released the album Street Survivors. The album cover was later changed, but it was originally the band members surrounded by flames. Now, stories of dream precognition are anecdotal and should be viewed skeptically, but still, the stories can't be ignored. On October 19, 1966, in Aberfan, a small mining village in South Wales, 10-year-old Errol Mae Jones told her mother about her dream. She said, "I dreamt I went to school and there was no school there. Something black had come down all over it." 2 days later, the top of the mine collapsed and caused a landslide. 140,000 cubic yards of water, coal, and mud poured into the village and covered the school. 116 children and 28 adults were killed, including
Sorry, guys.
10-year-old Errol Mae Jones. Psychiatrist John Barker heard about the young girl's prediction. Barker visited the site and learned that a number of people had dreams about the landslide before it happened. This led him to form the British Premonitions Bureau. He would document this and other events where dreams preceded them. Barker found 2 people who could predict events with remarkable accuracy. The first was Alan Hencher. Alan was from Aberfan and dreamed of the coal mine disaster. Alan called Barker in a frenzy one evening. He said he saw a plane crash over mountains. There were 124 people killed. 9 days later, a Britannia passenger aircraft carrying 130 people was flying in bad weather. It tried to land in Cyprus. Visibility was poor. It crashed into a high hill, broke into pieces, and
That's
caught
scary.
fire. 7 people survived the crash, leaving...
Yeah, 123, huh? So he was off by 1. Not bad.
Well, not exactly. Another passenger died soon after the crash.
Okay, this is getting scary.
Did I stop?
Nope.
Then Barker met Kathleen Middleton. In her first dream, she saw a petrified astronaut. That same day, a Russian astronaut... Cosmonaut,
Spasibo.
That same day, cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov was killed when the Soyuz 1 capsule crash landed. On March 11, 1968, Kathleen tried to reach Robert Kennedy to warn him that his life was in danger. The senator's staff didn't respond. On June 4th, Kathleen called Barker 3 times in a panic. She needed someone to warn the senator. Shortly after midnight on June 5th, 1968, RFK was assassinated by Sirhan Sirhan. Barker didn't pass along the warning. John Barker wasn't sure if ESP or psychic powers or premonitions were real. He was open-minded, but in his words, he wasn't sold. But when Alan Hencher
That's
and
crazy.
Kathleen Middleton both predicted his death, he admitted to being a little nervous.
Don't tell me.
Well, John Barker died within a year. Brain hemorrhage. He was only 42 years old.
You told me.
No, don't look away. Look at me.
Look at me.
You need to follow me. It's for your own safety.
That's right.
That's right. Come with me. Remember, I'm your friend.
In 2015, the creator of the site thisman.org gave an interview to Vice. Andrea Nutella said he first dreamt of this man in the winter of 2008. The man asked him to create the website to try and discover his identity. Andrea used facial composite software, like a police sketch artist might use. He then sketched the man from his dreams. Round face, thick eyebrows, thin lips, thinning hair. An actual person that looked like this man was never identified. But Andrea received thousands of letters and emails from people who also saw him in their dreams.
Starting when I was 7, I had the exact same dream for 10 years. I'm 17 now, and I have become very familiar with this man, although I do not have very nice dreams about him. I dreamed that he's leaning over me and making a strange noise, almost as if he was growling at me. And on his shirt is a gold round pendant that is molded into the gold, "Go North." Other nights, he would be standing across my bedroom, staring at me. When I saw the pictures on this website, I started crying out of fear. He never spoke to me. He only made weird noises. September 2nd, 2013. Palm Beach, Australia.
The behavior of this man varied from witness to witness. Some people had romantic fantasies about him.
Ugh.
Don't judge.
Sorry, I don't mean to yuck your yum. He just scares me.
He scared a lot of people. Some people dreamt of this man scaring, chasing, kidnapping, and sometimes killing the dreamer.
I dreamt of this man. He was following me through a park in the dead of night. I
I've
started
had those
running.
dreams.
He easily kept the same pace as me. He gave a small groan and sped up until he was in front of me. He put his hand out, stopping me from running. He pulled me close to him, but he only spoke a few words. I think about them every night.
On April 9th, 2021, go north. It's the only way to survive.
After saying this, the man ran away. I tried to catch up to him to ask more, but I couldn't keep up. March 7th, 2013, Utah.
Some encounters with this man were vivid and violent.
I dreamt of this man when I was in the 10th grade. A few feet away from me, there was a television set. Then this man showed up on the screen. I begged him not to harm me. He didn't change his blank expression or speak. He slit my throat. And I woke up.
I see, that makes sense. He looks kind of stabby.
Fuck that!
Yeah, there's no question. Something about his appearance is unsettling. Now, most people reported him giving them
looks
cryptic
kind
life
of
advice, though it was hard for the witnesses to be specific because this man rarely spoke. Even when he did speak, people had trouble describing his voice. Some said it was high-pitched. Others said he had a deep voice. Many people said he sounded like multiple voices layered on top of each other. Despite the differences in the stories, there were some recurring themes in his messages. He would often tell dreamers to go north, or ask that they follow him somewhere if they want to survive.
I dreamt of this man. A couple of years ago, I had to see a therapist because I was having reoccurring dreams about this middle-aged man who kept attacking me. He never said anything. I woke up soaking wet in sweat every night. I was put on triazole to help me get through the nights. I also have a dream where someone is always telling me to go north. I got it tattooed on my ankle because I swore it meant something. I'm almost positive this man is the one who comes to see me in my dreams. January 9th, 2011, Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
As Andrea did more research, he found evidence of people dreaming of this man going back at least 30 years. And there is a theory that dreams are more than disjointed images, that dreams are glimpses into other realities. Andrea describes this man as a traveler stuck out of time, a place between dimensions. Now maybe there's a reality where we all see this man. Maybe he's someone important, a spiritual figure, a leader, a god. Nobody knows. But now that you've seen a picture of this man, your brain can't help but look for him.
Oh, great.
But witnesses claim he knows who's looking for him. So don't be surprised if tonight you find him, or rather, he finds you. The earliest records of dream interpretation come from ancient Mesopotamia. The famous Assyrian dream book in the library of King Ashurbanipal goes back to the 7th century BC. In
No,
ancient Egypt,
tonight.
dreams were considered a direct means of communication with the gods. They wrote manuals of symbols and dream interpretations. Pharaohs even used dream priests to decipher their dreams
Oh, tomorrow.
to help them
Oh,
make
okay.
political decisions.
Yeah, tomorrow I'm down. Not tonight, though. I'm
Sigmund
fucking
Freud
dead.
wrote a book called The Interpretation of Dreams, which many consider the foundation of psychoanalysis. Freud introduced the idea that dreams are a window into the unconscious mind. He believed dreams were representations of our innermost desires. Many of Freud's theories were highly focused on sex. For example, if you dreamt about a door, a suitcase, an unopened flower, these were female symbols. If you dreamt of a baseball bat, a
I dream
stick,
about
a
sex all
sword,
the time.
these were phallic symbols.
Yeah, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Right.
But sometimes it's a penis.
Okay.
I'm not saying it. That horny old shrink said it.
Well, he did. And for years, Freud's theories were dismissed as manifestations of his own sexual repression. But there are universal dreams we all have that tend to reflect how we're feeling about what's happening in our daily lives. The most common dream humans have, like all mammals, is being chased. That's our amygdala at work. Being pursued is our most primal fear. Dreaming about falling often means you're feeling out of control. I used to have a recurring dream about floods and giant waves and tsunamis. This dream happens when we're feeling overwhelmed, which I was at the time. Ever dream about your teeth falling out? I have that one too.
Oh, that would be a nightmare. Look at my gorgeous choppers.
It's hard not to look at those
I
things.
dream about that sometimes.
Well, teeth falling out can represent feeling insecure about your appearance, or the fear of aging and declining health. Being naked in public is also a common dream. This reflects your vulnerability. Some people will have this dream after lying. It's a fear of being exposed. I still have dreams of being unprepared for school, or late for an exam, or a dream where I'm lost. These dreams speak to life's uncertainties. You might have these dreams when you're at a crossroads before a major life decision. Though most dreams are negative, not all of them are. Everyone's favorite dream is flying. This represents freedom, liberation, and empowerment. You might have this dream after leaving an abusive relationship or getting a
Mine is
promotion at
sex.
work.
My favorite dream is sex.
But there's no better dream than a lucid dream. This is where you're actually
Fuck
in
flying.
control of the dream. Normally, you're just a participant in the dream. You don't really have free will. Whether a dream is good or bad, you just have to let it play out. This is because your prefrontal cortex is disengaged. Remember, this is where your sense of self comes from, your consciousness. When you lucid dream, you switch this part of your brain back on. Suddenly, your dream is whatever you want it to be. Want to travel to ancient Egypt? Just will it and it will happen. Want to visit Mars or an alien planet in another galaxy? Just will it to happen. Want to be a professional baseball player, superhero, or maybe spend a little quality time with your favorite celebrity doing, well, whatever you want. Just will it to happen. If you've had a lucid dream by accident, you know how fun they are. But lucid dreaming is a skill that can be taught.
I want to learn
and this
how
is
to
something
lucid
I've
dream.
learned, and I'm pretty sure I can teach you to do it too. So if that's something you'd like me to cover or do some video on it somewhere, let me know. It's the most fun you'll ever have, I guarantee it.
Yeah, but what about this man? What does he mean?
Oh, this man. Well, that story takes a turn. When Vice published the article about this man in 2015, they had to publish a follow-up article later that day.
What was the second article?
An apology.
Oh, no.
Hello, Mystic.
On January 15th, 2015, Vice published an article about this man. A person seen by thousands of people in their dreams. Vice even interviewed Andrea Nutella, who created the website thisman.org. Later that day, Vice published a second article apologizing. Not only was this
What are you
man
doing,
a hoax,
babe?
it was debunked years earlier.
Oh, the media published a story without fact-checking it first, eh?
Yep.
I thought journalism was about integrity, being a voice for the people and seeking the truth. Yeah, you better grab a bucket. I'm oozing sarcasm all over the place over here.
The truth is, Andrea
fucking love the
Nutella,
fish so
the
much.
creator of the This Man myth, was an advertising executive. He specialized in guerrilla marketing.
You use monkeys?
Guerrilla marketing is usually low-cost, local viral
I
marketing.
think I look
That makes more
scary.
sense. Monkeys are expensive.
Do you mind you're distracting me?
Sorry, I was confused by the homonym about the hominin. You don't realize it, but that's the smartest joke I've ever made.
You say so. Anyway, Nutella wanted to see if he could create an urban legend, and he did. He made up the origin story of the New York psychiatrist, then he built the website. On the site were flyers you can download and print, and people were encouraged to post flyers in their neighborhoods, and they did, everywhere. Flyers turned up all over the world in 35 different languages. The website is still up and doesn't mention it's a hoax, though Nutella later admitted he made the whole thing up. He said the picture of this man is a sketch based on his father as a young man. Now, even though the story was debunked, when he was interviewed by Vice, Nutella couldn't help himself. He stuck to the story, and Vice fell for it.
Adam Media's fallen for quite a few hoaxes the past few years, huh?
Yeah, I've noticed. If this man is a hoax, what about the 8,000 people saying they saw him in their dreams? Were they lying? Well, probably not all of them. Suggestion is a powerful thing, and there's something about the image of this man that's haunting and memorable. And now that you've seen this video, there's a chance you'll encounter this man in your dreams. And if that happens, there's only one thing you can do. Go north. Sweet dreams. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. My name is AJ.
I fucking love this channel.
Jump to daddy.
This has been the Y-Files. If you had fun or learned anything, do him a favor, like, subscribe,
That was a
comment,
good one.
share. That stuff really makes his fins get all jiggly. And like most topics we cover
I
on the
have seen
channel,
him in my
today's
dreams. Yeah, he is very spooky looking, very spooky. I'm gonna check, hold on. I have a really bad headache, so I think we got time for one more, you guys. Tomorrow I'll have a longer stream, I promise. Just not feeling the best?
this We're experiencing something right now, so maybe the better question is, what is reality?
For us,
Could
good.
everything we see, everything we experience, everything that exists in our entire universe be
This one's
artificial?
good.
Supporters of simulation theory believe that not only is it possible that we're living in a simulation, it's likely. And the more we look for evidence, the more we find.
Thanks, cutie.
Let's find out why.
Bye.
The idea of the universe being a simulation is not a new one. Theories exist in ancient cultures
Thanks,
around
Mystic,
the world.
not by-
Modern simulation theory comes from Nick Bostrom, a philosopher at Oxford who wrote an influential paper on the subject in 2003. Assuming that living in a simulation
what
is
is this?
possible, Bostrom presents the simulation trilemma, which says one of the following must be true. One,
Well
we
done.
destroy ourselves before we're able to create
Yes,
a
the right one,
simulation.
so-
Two, we're able to create a simulation but choose not to. Or three, we are definitely in a simulation. Bostrom believes each of these is equally likely to be true. Now, I don't think that's controversial. We use computer models to study the human population, predict the weather, for entertainment. We simulate everything. And when a civilization can create a realistic simulation, the most obvious one to create is that of its own early existence. Bostrom calls this an ancestral simulation. And a civilization that can do this wouldn't just create one simulation, it would create many. And those simulated civilizations might create their own simulations of the universe, and on like Russian nesting dolls of reality.
Now you're a character in that world and you think you have free will and you say, I want to invent a computer. So you do. Hey, I want to create a world in my computer. And then that world creates a world in its computer. And then you have simulations all the way down.
When Elon Musk was asked what he thought the chances were that our reality is the original base reality,
the odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions.
Neil deGrasse Tyson is a little more conservative. He thinks the odds that we are in base reality versus a simulated reality is 50-50. A 50-50 chance that everything we experience is artificial, that's still pretty high. And even though we mostly hear what scientists think about this, it's not scientific theory. Simulation theory isn't math, it's philosophy. It isn't physics, it's metaphysics. So what we need is hard evidence that we live in a simulation. And to find proof, all you have to do is look.
Conservative. He thinks the odds that we are in base reality versus a simulated reality
Let's
is
start
50-50.
at the beginning. There was
A
no space or
50-50th
time.
chance that
The
everything is
contents
going to
of the
be
entire
fine.
universe were concentrated to the size of a tennis ball and had a temperature of a
Oh my
quadrillion
God,
degrees.
oh my God.
Then suddenly, the Big Bang. Everything explodes outward faster than the speed of light. Then about 14 billion years later, we've got galaxies and planets and ice cream and K-pop.
Yeah, I could do without the K-pop.
Me too. Okay, if before the Big Bang there was no space and no time, what was there? What about the beginning of the universe from the religious point of view? God created everything. Fine. Where was he before? What caused the Big Bang to happen in the first place? Or what made God decide to snap his fingers or wiggle his nose or whatever he did to make everything happen? If you ask a physicist to explain what existed before the universe, they'll give you an answer about quantum foam, dark energy, or something just as bonkers as the Big Bang. Ask a theologian what existed before God created the universe, and you'll get an answer equally as confusing. But what does make sense is that the universe was just sitting there dormant. Then someone somewhere decided to boot up a program. And in that program, our program, are all the laws of the universe. Electromagnetism and gravitational force are written into the program. The speed of light gets a value. There's code for Planck's constants of mass, speed, and time. Avogadro's number is in there, along with a bunch of other rules that govern the behavior of everything that exists. All part of our program. Even consciousness itself is part of our simulation. If you've never heard of simulation theory, then this might sound far-fetched. But some of the world's most respected scientists, technologists, and philosophers believe that it is more likely than not that we are living in an artificial reality. So, how do we prove it? If we live in an artificial reality, it would make sense for there to be occasional glitches. Philip K. Dick is one of the most influential science fiction writers of all time. Movies based on his books include Blade Runner, Total Recall, Minority Report, The Adjustment Bureau, and plenty of others. He believed there are many universes, and sometimes those other realities bleed into ours. He claimed to have visions of this, and even wrote stories like The Man in the High Castle based on these visions.
That in fact, plural realities did exist, superimposed onto one another, like so many film transparencies.
One way other realities blend into ours could be the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect is when a large number of people have memories of events that don't match reality. This is called the Mandela effect because millions of people specifically remember Nelson Mandela died in prison. He didn't. People remember his wife walking beside his casket in a funeral procession that was on television for 2 hours that day. This never happened. Or the Berenstain Bears, which people insist were always called the Berenstein Bears. People remember the tycoon from Monopoly having a monocle that he never had. What was Darth Vader famous for saying?
Luke,
what, babe?
I am your father.
Nope, he never said that.
What?
What about Stouffer's stovetop stuffing?
Best part of Thanksgiving.
No, it isn't, because there's no such product. Stovetop is made by Kraft.
No.
The evil queen from Snow White who looked into her mirror and said,
Mirror, mirror on the wall.
Nope.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest one of all?
My reality is shattered.
People remember Febreze being spelled with 2 E's.
That's scary.
People remember Jiffy peanut butter, but there's no such thing. And there are a lot more. A lot more. Personally, I don't have most of these false memories, But there are a few that get me. The Flintstones. There are 2 T's in the Flintstones. I remember just one. And what about the Fruit of the Loom logo? I could swear it looks like this. But it doesn't. This is the actual logo. No cornucopia.
Cornu what now?
Basket.
Then just say basket for crying out loud.
And at the end of Moonraker, a terrible but excellent James Bond movie, I remember Jaws' girlfriend as having braces. I mean, I specifically remember it. She didn't have braces. I just can't get my brain to accept it. That's the Mandela effect. So why do millions of people distinctly remember different things?
Glitch in a simulation?
Yep. Philip K. Dick also felt when we experienced deja vu, it's because something in our simulated universe changed and a new timeline branched off of the current one.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed.
Ever feel like you've lived a moment before? That's because, according to Philip K. Dick and others, you have. Deja vu is the simulation correcting itself with new information. But skeptics can easily dismiss these theories. The human mind is terribly unreliable. They don't accept this as evidence. But we're not done yet. We live in a huge universe, 200 billion trillion stars. And even if life is rare, you'd think there'd be some evidence of it somewhere. This is Fermi's paradox. According to the Drake equation, there should be over 1 million technologically advanced civilizations just in our galaxy. And on average, the nearest one should be just a few hundred light years away. But there's nothing, at least not that we can see. So where is everybody? Are we really alone in the universe, or does our program only focus on us? And what about the physical rules that are in place? Max Tegmark, a cosmologist at MIT, said the strict laws of physics point to the possibility of a simulation. Putting a cap on the speed of light sure is a good way to keep your Sims from venturing out too far from home. Theoretical physicist James Gates thought simulation theory was crazy. Then he started studying quarks and electrons. He found error-correcting code buried deep inside the equations used to describe string theory.
So you're saying as you dig deeper, you find computer code writ in the fabric of the cosmos?
Into the equations that we want to use to describe the cosmos, yes.
Computer code.
Computer code, strings of bits of ones and zeros.
Dr. Gates has changed his mind about simulation theory. In 2017, a group of scientists at the University of Washington proved they can embed computer code into strands of DNA. Everything in nature is math. Look at the Fibonacci sequence. You get the Fibonacci sequence by adding 2 previous numbers in the sequence together. So 1 plus 1 equals 2, 2 plus 1 equals 3, 3 plus 2 equals 5, 5 plus 3 equals 8, and so on forever. You get the golden ratio, also called phi, by dividing 2 consecutive Fibonacci numbers. So the number 89 is a Fibonacci number. The next number in the sequence after 89 is 144. 144 divided by 89 is the golden ratio. It's about 1.618. We see Fibonacci numbers and the golden ratio everywhere. The number of petals on a flower is usually a Fibonacci number. Lilies have 3 petals, buttercups have 5, chicory has 21, and a daisy has 34. And the spacing of each petal is arranged in a circle according to the golden ratio. As trees grow, the number of branches they form is a Fibonacci number. And not just plants, animals too. The ratio of female to male honeybees in a colony is the golden ratio, 1.618. The human body conforms to the golden ratio too. Most of the body follows the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 5. 1 nose, 2 eyes, 3 limb segments, 5 fingers, 5 toes. The proportions of the body, like the length of your shoulder to your elbow, and from your elbow to your fingertips, that's the golden ratio. Even a DNA molecule measures 34 angstroms long by 21 angstroms wide. Fibonacci numbers, and the golden ratio. From the spiral of seashells to the spiral of a galaxy and everything in between, Fibonacci numbers are everywhere. Now, some claim this is a coincidence, that humans look for patterns in chaos because that's what we're programmed to do.
What we're programmed to do.
And isn't that interesting? By trying to debunk simulation theory, they actually end up proving it. No matter what we study, whether it's something the size of a galaxy or as small as an electron, everything in the universe seems to follow patterns and rules. In other words, a program. To simulate an entire universe, you'd obviously need more advanced technology than we have. But that doesn't mean we won't get there. Moore's law says that computing power doubles every 18 months, and this has held true for about 50 years. Now that is slowing down a little bit, but only because of physical limitations. Assuming we can learn to make microchips smaller, and there's no doubt that we will, it's predicted that artificial intelligence could surpass human intelligence within the next 100 years. As Elon Musk points out, when he was a kid, the world's most advanced video game was Pong, 2 rectangles on a screen. 40 years later, video game technology is barely distinguishable from reality. He said that 6 years ago. And even in that short time, video game engines have become even more realistic. Look at this footage from Unreal Engine 5.
When a world we can build feels as real as our own.
Imagine what games are going to look like in the next 6 years, or the next 60, or the next 6,000. But simulating an entire universe, how big of a computer will we need? Well, it's estimated that there are 10 to the power of 80 atoms in the universe. Let me put that on the screen just for fun. Okay, that's a lot. If each particle needs 128 bits to calculate its position and momentum, you're at 10 to the power of 83 bits. And that's just for data storage. We also need computing power to track what each of those particles is doing. If we say 2 floating point operations per second, or 2 flops per particle, we're at 2 times 10 to the 80th power flops. There aren't even words for these numbers. And this is the computing power for just the stuff in the universe. What about human intelligence? The human brain can perform 100 trillion calculations per second, or 100 teraflops. Multiplied by billions of people, the numbers are ridiculous. To power all of this, the simulation would need access to multiple Dyson spheres, the megastructures that capture 100% of the energy of a star. Or the simulation would have to harness the energy from black holes. This is why famous physicists like Dr. Michio Kaku are not on board with simulation theory. He claims that simulating a universe is not scientifically possible.
I have a Dyson.
The only computer capable of simulating a universe is the universe itself. Now, at first glance, this makes sense. But with all due respect to Dr. Kaku, that's not how simulations work. When you're playing a 3D video game, the entire game world isn't rendered. Instead, the game engine only calculates what the player can see and interact with at that specific moment. If we are living in a simulation, then it would make sense that the creators of the simulation would use a similar technique. And wouldn't it be interesting if there was evidence that this is exactly what happens?
Well, wait a minute. Do we have
Dr.
proof?
Kaku put his
Sweet
Dr. Kaku stuck his
fancy
Dyson
noses.
sphere in my teraflop.
Supporters of simulation theory often point to video games as a way to explain, if not prove, that our reality is artificial. In a video game, the only data that is rendered is what the player sees or interacts with. If you're playing a video game and there's a car or building a mile away, that entire object isn't rendered. The game engine only renders the bare minimum of information to make the object look real. A distant building is rendered as just a few pixels, not that complicated. As you get closer, the engine renders more details, but still, it's just a facade. The engine doesn't bother calculating what's inside the building until you actually go in. The game engine always knows how much data to send you and doesn't bother with anything else. If we live in a simulation, it would make sense that our reality is rendered the same way. And we could test this.
Wait, well, what do you mean we can test this?
Specifically, we can use the double slit experiment. Here's how it goes. If we fire particles in a straight line at a screen, after passing through a single slit, we would expect to see this clumping pattern on the screen. If we try this with a wave, we expect to see a pattern like this, where particles are most dense in the middle of the screen but radiate outward, similar to the clumping pattern. When we add a second slit, it starts to get fun. When the waves pass through the double slit, each slit creates its own wave.
Red boy.
When those waves intersect, they cancel each other out. That creates a pattern like this. It's called an interference pattern. So, particles passing through 2 slits create clumping patterns. Waves through 2 slits creates an interference pattern. Make sense?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Good. If we fire electrons through the slit, we see the clumping pattern as expected. An electron has mass, so it's a tiny bit of matter. So if we fire electrons through 2 slits, we should see 2 clumps. But we don't. We see the wave interference pattern. This shouldn't
is
be
a lot of
happening. What's
information,
going
you
on
guys. I'm
here?
sorry.
For years, scientists assumed that the electrons were colliding with each other, causing the wave pattern. But in the 60s, the experiment was modified so that only one electron at a time was fired through the slits. There was no way the electrons could interact with each other. Yet we still see an interference pattern. Scientists wanted to see what was causing this, so they added a detector to observe electrons as they pass through the slits. That's when things go from weird to paranormal. As soon as the detectors were installed, the interference pattern went away and the clumping pattern returned. Take the detectors away and the wave interference pattern is back.
But that's a different result to what we had earlier. So here's the last bit of sneakiness that we can play with atoms. Surely now, we're going to get to grips with it. Leave the detector there, but just very quietly go and unplug it. Don't let the atoms know that you're not spying on them. Run the
Don't ignore me,
experiment again.
butthead.
Now, if you can explain this using common sense and logic, do let me know, because there's a Nobel Prize for you.
It's as if the particles are aware they're being observed. Then physicist John Wheeler had an idea. He called it the delayed choice experiment. How it works is, photons are projected through the double slit, but the detector is not activated until after they pass through the slit, but before they impact the screen. Photons were emitted as waves, passed through the slits as waves, but when the waves were observed before hitting the screen, they suddenly behaved like particles again. Still don't think there's an intelligence at work? Well, what Wheeler's experiment showed is that even though the electrons started as waves but behaved like particles after being observed, at the moment the decision to observe them was made, the electrons recorded themselves as having passed through the slits as particles. The electrons changed their state by going back in time.
I personally find that I gravitate more towards the information theoretic point of view and believing that the universe that I exist in is a very good, high-quality simulation.
Now, this experiment is happening on a table in a lab, a very short distance. So what happens when we observe light coming from vast distances, like say a galaxy 100 million light years away? If light from a distant galaxy is projected through the double slit, it creates the wave interference pattern. But if we push those photons through a measuring apparatus to observe them, the wave again collapses all the way back to its source. This is called retrocausality. Simply by choosing to observe the photons this way, they reach back through time 100 million years and alter their state on the other side of the galaxy. But like a video game engine, it only does this if we're looking. Even though our universe is full of galaxies, those galaxies may not actually be there. If we're living in a simulation, then stars and galaxies could simply be projections, and only when we get up close would those projections become more detailed. This is an excellent way to save computational resources. And because we're stuck with the hard limit of the speed of light, getting to far-off places is really difficult. Limiting the speed of light is a useful rule to have in place. Quantum mechanics like the double slit experiment and quantum entanglement only make sense if there's a program at work, because only the program can ignore the laws of physics and ignore the concept of time itself. A convenient case for simulation theory is you can't disprove it. The Big Bang, that was the simulation booting up. We haven't found aliens, they're not in the simulation. How come UFOs seem to violate the laws of physics? Well, because they're programs operated by the simulation creators. They don't have to follow the laws of physics.
Yeah, but who created the simulation?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? When you think of the simulation creator as an omniscient intelligence who exists outside of our understanding of space and time, it sounds an awful lot like you're describing God. And just like you can't prove we're not in a simulation, you can't prove there is no God. If something miraculous happens or something horrible happens, you can say it's part of the simulation just as easily as you can say it's part of God's plan. Something I find very interesting is that many believers of simulation theory are fierce atheists. They dismiss the idea of God as corny superstition. And there are plenty of devoutly religious people who dismiss provable science like evolution and the age of the earth. People on the religious side say That if there is no God and life is just a simulation, then nothing matters. Without God to guide us and sometimes punish us, depending on what you believe, our actions don't have consequences. I disagree. Even if we don't live in base reality, we still live in our reality, and our actions here do have consequences. As for what happens after we die, simulation or not, nobody really knows. Both sides argue that faith and science are not compatible. Isn't this hypocritical? Whether you believe in God or you believe in simulation theory, the real question is, what's the difference? Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. My name is AJ, that's Hecklefish. This has been
Listen to the... Oh, I thought he was going to say something crazy at the end. That's really good, though. I like that one. A lot of information. I love you guys. Thank you guys. Subscribe, follow. Trying to do a heart. I love you guys. I'm going to sleep.